It's been a while since I go after the Mary Sue, and for the sake of having fun, I'm just gonna browse through the Mary Sue and find out what kind of articles that they posted. Here's an article that I saved, but I didn't have a chance to do a video on, but I'm gonna make fun of them anyway. Frank Cho and Milo Manara prove they have learned nothing at Art and Women panel. Alright, are you ready for this one? Grab a popcorn for more stupidity. Let's get started.
There's an old joke. A patient is seeing a doctor and says, "Doc, my art hurts every time I move it like this." To which the doctor replies, "So don't move it like this." For two people who seem to hate what happens when people get offended to their work, artists Milo Manara and Frank Cho sure do seem to be making a new career for themselves, entirely built on that. Gentlemen, if you're tired of Backlash, maybe consider lightening up on the behavior that's causing it, lest you reveal yourselves as the attention grabbers you are. Wait, too late.
Projection and lack of self-awareness, typical of Mary Sue writers. I'm gonna throw it back at you, Mary Sue writers. If you're tired of Milo and Frank drawing terrible sexist drawings, maybe you should look at yourself in the mirror and find out that maybe, just maybe, you're the problem.
I gotta blame somebody, otherwise it's all my fault. Fuck that.
Just a little refresher, Milo Manara and Frank Cho are two comic book artists that got lots and lots of hate for the terrible sexist drawings. What are the terrible sexist drawings? This one. Really?
Well, that's not suspicious.
Also, this one is by Cho, which is a reference to this one by Milo. If you cannot see the problem of those two drawings, congratulations, you're a normal functioning human being, because there is none. It's just freaking drawings of Spider-Gwen and Spider-Woman. Someone needs to get a grip.
There's a comic convention called Lucca Comics and Games 2016 happening on Italy right now, at which Cho hosted a panel earlier today where they discussed their careers and work called Frank Cho, Milo Manara, and Women, a dialogue between two masters. At the end of the panel, Manara presented Cho with the gift of a very not safe for work drawing of Spider-Woman, according to a post on Cho's Facebook, apparently in appreciation for fighting censorship.
I told you guys, the power of friendship. If you're gonna fight censorship, don't fight it yourself. These people are coming in mobs to make sure that the things that they don't like can just go away. The most wonderful thing about these mobs is that no matter how big they look, no matter how loud they make themselves to look like, our mobs of fighting against these terrible censorships, they're always gonna be bigger. 10 times, 1,000 times bigger. They're only silent. So speak up.
Out of my way! Out of my way! Can't you see he's gonna kick my butt? Hi there, young people. Nice day today.
So, you like kicking butts, do ya? Well, we'll show you, old man! There he is! Go get him!
The Mary Sue is also nice enough to cite their own whining to Wonder Woman's drawing in the article, which also cited to another whining of Spider-Gwen's drawing by Frank Cho. These people really hate sexy women, do they?
He just put on 300,000 pounds. I am so jealous.
I mean, it's not like their logo is a sexy women or anything. By the way, the one about Spider-Gwen was written by Sam Max, as in this chick.
When you can hear the person on the other end who's saying these things directly to you and they're saying them directly to you, that's a whole other level of harassment, really.
Cho walked off during Wonder Woman's variants because he was upset that the series writer Greg Rucka had specific ideas about how he'd like Wonder Woman portrayed on comic book covers.
Ah, Greg Rucka. So, according to the last article that Mary Sue on this debacle, Frank Cho commented on what Greg Rucka was doing.
All the problem lies with Greg Rucka. Everyone loves my Wonder Woman covers and wants me to stay. Greg Rucka is the only one who has any problem with the covers. Greg Rucka has been trying to alter and censor my artwork since day one. Greg Rucka thought my Wonder Woman 3 cover was vulgar and showed too much skin, and has been spearheading censorship, which is baffling since my Wonder Woman image in its model and shows the same amount of skin as the interior art, and it's a variant cover, and it should have no editorial control over it, but he does. What the fuck? I tried to play nice, not rock the boat and do my best at the covers, but Greg's weird political agenda against me and my art has made that job impossible. Wonder Woman was the only reason I came to DC Comics.
So, in other words, Rucka has some form of a political agenda to push into DC Comics, and he admitted it. Jesus Christ, DC, your comics have been just shredding Marvel, don't get me wrong, but this is how you treat your goddamn artists? Oh, and Greg Rucka, these are a few comics that you have worked previously that you agreed on its covers that are 10 times more vulgar than the ones that Cho drew, so what happened? No, seriously, what happened?
Joe apparently believes that despite the fact that he's a work-for-hire artist, the only person he'll take notes from is an editor who won't challenge him in any way. He really needed to express himself by drawing Wonder Woman's underwear sticking out.
Quite a distortion of argument you got there, Mary Sue. Cho is not saying that he's not allowing editors to not challenge him or his viewpoints. He's saying that the challenge from his editor is bad. The argument consists of nothing but more political agenda and more objectification. If you consider that a challenge...
Maybe you have a hidden talent you don't know about, like Paris Hilton being an actress. Oh, scratch that.
Now Manara is publicly giving Cho this gross piece of artwork, not even artsy or erotic, just basically giving Spider-Woman camel toe as a very clear you to anyone who would challenge them and their ability to objectify women wherever they want.
Yes. Artists are allowed to objectify women however they want, wherever they want, because they're doing it with a freaking pencil and paper, and not actually telling women to go home, gamer girl.
Just because you glued the controller to my hands doesn't mean I want to play.
This is even the first time people complaining about comic book characters being too sexy. As if my other video on comic book industry wasn't enough, this time we have this pathetic loser over here. Starfire drawn like that is just wrong. She's a teenager. It's fucking poor taste. It's wrong to draw Starfire sexy. It's wrong to draw one of the sexiest bombshells of DC to be sexy.
Stupid curtains!
Aliens.
Could you make Starfire less sex fantasy? I mean, would the DC creative directors have allowed it? Oh, poor baby toddler. Go back to watch your Saturday morning cartoon. This is comic books, bitch. Starfire is bombshell hot. And if you don't like it, do yourself a favor and castrate yourself. Mother of God. These colossal imbeciles are now going after a member of one of my favorite superhero teams in one of my favorite cartoons of all time. No, not that one. Do that again. And I'm just about an inch of...
Oh my freaking God! I'm gonna kill you! I will kill you!
They are both acting like petulant children, as if the backlash against their artwork in certain contexts is deeply wounding them, as if they didn't just have a panel all to themselves at a comic convention.
You're just projecting at this moment. You're the one who acted like a petulant children. Where? Someone drew a sexy character. And I love the last sentence too, as if they didn't just have a panel all to themselves at comic convention. You know, there's some really annoying whiners like you who are so self-loathing that you go into someone else's comic convention only to get yourself triggered. But then again, I'm browsing through the Mary Sue, so touché on projection. Hey, at least I'm coming in here giving you legitimate criticisms. That's more productive than, oh, I don't know, whining that your OTP is not canon.
As if someone trying to reign with their portrayals of female characters in the covers that lots of people will see, because yes, despite the constant argument that if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it, the problem is that the variants are still visible in stores, is still stifling their artistic expression.
AKA, I'm going to ignore the fact that I have agency to ignore. Wait, what?
You are here, and you're an idiot.
So, the only way for you to express yourself artistically is by being able to draw labia, or Wonder Woman's underwear peeking out, or asses in the air? That seems like a pretty limited artistic vocabulary to me, as if Marvel or DC pulling one of their covers is tantamount to oppression.
Because that's the only thing you see, Mary Sue. You freaking projectionists. You are the ones who are having a pretty limited artistic vocabulary. Wonder Woman's asses and tits are the only things you care about. Someone in this room is jelly.
You know what's tantamount to oppression? An entire industry designed to treat and portray you like a second-class citizen. That's oppression.
You know what's tantamount to oppression? An entire industry designed to treat and portray you like a second-class citizen. That's oppression.
When comic fans complain about a particular variant cover, it's less about the individual artist and more about the company that lets certain sexist covers get through editorial for public consumption. And let's be clear, when you're only drawing female characters in sexual ways, that's inherently sexist.
You are immoral for drawing this character. You are a horrible sexist women hater. Let me ask you this, Mary Sue. If sexism is immoral, and you find something to be inherently immoral, wouldn't the right action to immoral things is to purge them? I mean, a couple of my videos back, someone literally advocated for an anime that she didn't like to die in obscurity. Someone also admitted, with a straight face, that she wanted certain scenes to be censored because her 5-year-old brain couldn't process it. If sexism is immoral and sexy drawings of comic book characters are immoral, you enjoying erotica need to be questioned.
All they do is blow, blow, blow on their stupid whistles, rub, rub, rub that white stuff on their noses, and show off their gross, misshapen bodies! Dude, put that thing away. They're like children here.
You are objectifying the female form in a way you are not objectifying the male form.
No. The Benedict Cumberbatch fangirls don't really need him to open his clothes at any given time to actually fangirl themselves. The thing is, and I find it so weird among fangirls, they're easily teased. Just a little bit of scene of boys being boys, for example, Yuri and Victor, and that's basically enough to spawn tons and tons of yaois about them. The reason why the sexualization of boys aren't as explicit as the girls is because the girls are pleased with what they get, and even if they don't, they're gonna take the effort to please themselves. At least that's how I observe them. I don't speak to all the fangirls here, obviously, so if you think differently, do comment down below. The boys, well, our dicks are pretty much desensitized. As much as I love Starfire and as much as I find her really sexy, it's gonna need to take a lot more effort to actually cause a little bit of a morning wood in me. But then again, the same thing can be said to the girls and the fangirls who are working boys. It could take a lot more effort or a lot more sexy things to actually get them wet in the pussy or something, which is why the desperate girls celebrate it when they see men's bulges, because they love to project their insecurities and how much of a virgin they are to everyone. Speaking of bulges, am I the only one who has a boner looking at Suyu? I don't know, something about her just clicks. I don't know why. Or you could just go traditional LEWD, you know, something like this. That image was cropped, distort, show it in full. To LEWD? Alright, fine, carry on.
And sure, you could argue that, hey, we're straight men, we're drawing what we like. But it's not like anyone's hiring gay male or straight female artists to draw male characters in a sexualized fashion.
So what you're saying here is, if you want to draw a sexualized character, you need to be the same gender as the sexualized character that you draw, so that it's more accurate and less triggering. Because that's what defines a good character? Because that always worked out well?
The comics environment is clearly lopsided in favor of cis-straight men, many of whom get upset when fans and later the companies they work for try to level the field a bit. God forbid they have their privilege taken away from them for a second.
Let's create more problems in the comic industry when there's absolutely none. There's a reason why I always loved the Beyond Good and Evil quote. You guys just cannot see for just a second that you are the real monster in the room. You're the ones who are actually taking everybody's rights. You're just making everything to be less fun. You're ruining everything. And you just cannot see it. And that is scary.
You're an emotional fucking cripple. Your soul is dog shit. Every single fucking thing about you is ugly.
If they're only worried worried about freedom of expression, they'd express themselves through their work and sell it or create it on their own, as they have always been free to do. That would be exercising their free speech, even as the fans and the comic publishers exercise their free speech in not buying their work or hiring them to do certain covers. The fact that they're doing panels like this together, smugly and publicly responding to each other with art that is offensive on purpose, and putting themselves forward as champions of free speech when no one has stopped them from making art, reeks of something else, something hateful, something determined to rub salt in a very deep wound.
You guys just literally admitted that you guys are salty in there. So there you go, guys. The Mary Sue just literally asked people on why the hell didn't anyone stop them from making art that is offensive and triggering for them. Do you know what free speech and free expression protect, Mary Sue? They protect individuals' rights to say the most offensive and stupidest of things. As much as I don't like you saying all of these completely stupid things, I'm not going to advocate on banning you. I'm not going to advocate on censoring you. In fact, I will let you say all of these things. It is hilariously stupid. But why can't you return the same courtesy to your opponents? Because you have no arguments. If you actually have some, you'd actually bring it up. But your best argument to why you don't like this thing is because it is immoral.
I don't give a tuppeny fuck about your moral conundrum, you meat-headed shitsack.
Sorry, not an argument. I mean, when there will be a time in which you will deny sexual desire?
Why sexual desire is objectifying and hence morally wrong.
So, let me get this straight. Sexual desire, you know, the thing that keeps our species sustainable for generations after generations, that is immoral now? I mean, again, if this is an immoral act, then morally speaking, we shouldn't do immoral acts. If this is immoral, then you're saying that we shouldn't have any sexual desires? You're practically arguing against biology at this point, so screw it. Let's go full LEWD. Get your telescopes ready.
The 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant believed that human beings tend to be evil.
Well, that explains why people kept on saying that he's a bit of a loon.
I'm playing with your mind, man. And you know what the weird part is? I'm not even high. Not a bit. Totally sober.
He wasn't talking about some guy rubbing his hands and crowing with glee at the prospect of torturing an enemy. He was thinking about the basic human tendency to succumb to what we want to do, instead of what we ought to do, to heed the serene song of our desires instead of the call of duty. For Kant, morality is the force that closes this gap and holds us back for our darker, desiring selves.
The thing about the 7 deadly sins is that as much as those things are evil and monstrous and should be abolished, those are unfortunately things that define human beings. If you do not have lust towards other human beings, then there's not going to be any desire to procreate and repopulate the earth. If you don't have pride, then we're always going to be depressed. If we remove greed entirely from our body, then we're not going to have anything in our lives because we're too generous to just give it away to everybody. These 7 deadly sins are not only necessary to sustain a normal life, but practically impossible to live without them. You cannot abolish them out of your system. You can only control them. In this case, we're talking about lust, and lust can be applied for good things, things that give positive impact, things that pleasure you, but it can also be applied for bad things. You can't be too greedy, but you can't also be too generous either. And there's absolutely nothing wrong going through the internet, just browsing some sexy pictures. Just don't do it too much. Control and moderation are necessary and required. A lot of things are good in moderation. Also, what we ought to do? What are we supposed to do as human beings? What is the general purpose of us living in this planet we call Earth? I mean, if our purpose is to live, unfortunately we don't live for long. We're gonna die. We're gonna need someone to replace us. We need the next generation. And guess what? If we don't procreate, those next generations are not gonna exist. So again, what's the purpose of us living? What is this call of duty you're talking about?
Once desire becomes suspect, sex is never far behind. Kant implicitly acknowledged the unusual power of sexual urges and their capacity to divert us from doing what is right.
What is right? You're well aware that morality is subjective, right? what you think is the right thing to do is not what I think is the right thing to do. And again, you don't define what's the right thing to do here. Can you at least tell me what's right to do before we move on?
He claimed that sex was particularly morally condemnable because lust focuses on the body, not the agency of those we sexually desire, and so reduce them to mere things.
So what you're saying here is sex equals rape. That's the only way I'd interpret it. You're saying that every single instance of sex are done by individuals with no agency. Do you seriously believe that?
It makes us to see the objects of our longing as just that, objects. In so doing, we see them as mere tools for our own satisfaction.
So, you're implying that people never once in their entire life given their entire body as an object for satisfaction to someone that they wanted to. Have you ever heard of this word called seduction? Newsflash, human beings love to do that to each other. If you think that's morally wrong, you're practically going against human nature. Biology is sexist and objectifying to these people.
Treating people as objects can mean many things.
People having sex is not one of them. Drawing fictional characters is not one of them.
It could include beating them, tearing into them, and violating them.
Those are not about people having sex. It's irrelevant to your last point.
But there are other, less violent ways of objectifying people. We might treat someone as only mean to our sexual pleasure to satisfy our lust to that person, to use a somewhat archaic oppression.
Yes, and you know that there are human beings that are willing to do that, right? You know that human beings have the agency to also make themselves to be an object of sexual pleasure to other human beings. Of course you don't. You think human beings are all drones being crafted by Giver Utopia.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
The fact that the other person consents does not get rid of objectification. Two people can agree to use one another for purely sexual purposes.
Yes! 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 What's your problem with that? You think it's wrong because in your perception, it's morally wrong. That's your entire argument. Your entire argument is that it's morally wrong. It's morally wrong. It's morally wrong. Please have better arguments.
Nothing! Absolutely nothing! Stupid! You're so stupid!
But though we use each other all the time, many of us have jobs as cleaners, gardeners, teachers, singers. Does the beneficiary of the service objectify the service provider? And does the service provider objectify the recipients by taking their money? These relationships don't seem to provoke the same moral qualms. Either they do not involve objectification, or the objectification is somehow nurtured.
Objectify, 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 objectify. Stop for a moment, okay? Stop for a moment and remove this word out of your vocabulary and look in the world with a normal human lens. Please, you're gonna need it.
Kant said that these scenarios weren't really a problem. He draws a distinction between mere use, the basis of objectification, and more than mere use. While we might employ people to do jobs and accept payment for our work, we don't treat the person on the other side of the transaction as a mere tool. We still recognize that person's fundamental humanity.
Because nobody has ever complained about their jobs before.
You are a boring F star cunt.
Sex, though, is different. When I hire someone to sing, according to Kant, my desire is for his or her talent, for the voice in action.
And I can interpret you objectifying the singer too, you imbecile.
But when I sexually desire someone, I desire his or her body, not the person's services or talents or intellectual capabilities, although any of these could enhance the desire.
Yeah, keep on bringing excuses. Keep on equating things to one another. By your own logic, you have objectified this singer.
So when we desire the person's body, we often focus during sex on its individual parts. The buttocks, the penis, the clitoris, the thighs, the lips. What we desire to do with those parts differs, of course. Some like to touch them with the hand, others with the lips, others with the tongue. For others, still, the desire is just to look. This does not mean that I would settle for a human corpse. Our desire for human bodies is directed at them as living, much like my desire for a cell phone is directed at a functioning one.
You just destroyed your own argument in one paragraph. That's fantastic.
You serious?
But one may object. Don't we do sexual things because we love our partners and want them to feel pleasure? Of course we do.
That's all for the video today. If you like this, you're gonna go ahead and click the like button. We're still a couple of paragraphs in, so screw me.
But if we did so when we didn't want to do them in the first place, then we do not do it out of sexual desire.
Thanks, Captain Obvious! Oh god, that hurts so much. Jesus Christ, I need some aspirin. Give me a minute. Oh my god, that hurts.
Sex doesn't just make you objectify your partner, it also makes you objectify yourself. When I'm in
You know what, let's just stop the article right there. This article cannot go on a second without the word objectification. Can we just get to the point?
What's objectifying about sexual desire is its ability to numb a person to reason, both in themselves and in others.
How do you write women so well?
I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability.
So what you're saying here is objectification is wrong because it has the ability to numb a person to reason. You know what? Objectification is gonna be on my alarm bell vocabulary right next to hate speech. The use of this word is so confusing, so manipulative, so incredibly out of touch that I cannot for a second think of how this word could be applied or could be reflective of reality. The only one reducing people to objects is you. And the scariest of all, you can't see it. So, in conclusion, sexual desire is wrong because objectification. What is objectification? The kind of word that would surely castrate your genitals, which is why it's good to just dump it into a garbage bin. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead and click the like button and subscribe for more if you wish. You can support me at Patreon. And thanks for watching.